Okay, so we are now live. And so I'm going to go here to Facebook. I wonder if it just did it.
All these buttons. This is what I need to learn about.
Yeah, it took me a little while. It's a ramp up thing. You do it once, it's okay, and then you do it another time, and then you do it 3 or 4 times, and you've got it.
Yeah.
And then you don't do it for a while, and then you have to go do it again.
Yeah.
Okay, continue as well. Okay. Okay, public, show on your timeline, go live. Preparing to live stream the webinar. Oh, it's so cool.
Yes.
We'll do that one too. I wonder if it's on.
Oops. Shit.
I think we're good. Webinar is now streaming to live on Facebook. Okay.
I see me here.
Yep. Okay, welcome everybody. So we are live on Facebook and also on Zoom. You can find us on either one. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can do this so that we can see the people on Facebook. Yeah, so that should work. Now let's see if we get, I think I can do it this way. So super excited to do this with you all. Somebody already joined. I wonder how comments. So if somebody wants to comment, then we'll know that you guys can see us on Facebook. And there's a little lag time between the Zoom and the Facebook. We'll check in with both of them from time to time. There's a way to chat on Zoom too. Okay, we're gonna go here so that we can see that, and I'll still be able to see comments. So if comment shows up, I'll be able to see it there. Okay, so we did this is Ralph Havens and Don Ley. So we've done quite a few of these Miracles, Magic, and Coffee sessions. And as some of you know that have watched before, Don Ley had a near-death experience quite a few years ago, motorcycle crash, and was gone for 3 days and then came back. And he has a great story to tell about it. So we'll recap it briefly for those of you that haven't seen it yet. But you can go back on our YouTube and see more stuff. The earlier sessions, we've had about 3 or 4 of those. And the last one, for some reason, I couldn't upload it to YouTube. And so we started doing them on Zoom today. And so they'll be on Zoom and also on YouTube. So you can look for that. It's on Facebook Live right now. So welcome. And last time we did something, and since you can't see it on YouTube right now, I want to recap it because it was really cool and it kind of leads into what I was thinking today to ask Don. And we were talking about Yogananda. That's the guy that brought Kriya Yoga to the US, and he has the book Autobiography of a Yogi and a lot of other stuff. And he has quite a story, and he could manifest a lot of stuff in the physical world. He created a bunch of amazing stuff, the Self-Realization Fellowship. It's all worldwide and in San Diego and LA and big centers. And he also was very connected to spirit. And so that interests me. And then we talked about Peter Pan and how Peter Pan said, you need to believe and then you can fly. And of course, there's the spiritual stuff that is in the Bible and other traditions, I'm sure, that talk about, to enter the kingdom of heaven, you must be as a child. And so how is that useful? So today, what I wanted to do was check in with Don and see, how is it useful? Like, how is it useful? And can we use it? And so that's where we're going today. So if you have any questions for Don about near-death experiences, or how he uses it, or can you use it, or anything that you're dealing with that you want to shift, let me know. I see something popping up here, and I don't want that to pop up. Hang on. I do want that to pop up, but I'm going to put that down here. Okay, so the other thing that I want to have you consider, if you want, is we had a wonderful success story a few weeks ago, a couple months ago or so, of someone that had a big shift in a medical condition, and something that supposedly wasn't very unlikely to be fixed up or changed, or somebody get well from, and turns out they're doing really well right now. So what you might want to do, if you have anybody that you're talking with, family, friends that are dealing with anything, you can just put them into the field. And by that, I mean, just kind of put an intention out there that, wouldn't it be cool if they had a shift today, or something was different for them today? And then we'll see what happens, and let me know what's different for you guys. Okay, so without much further ado, what I wanted to check in with Don was maybe first a little bit about what, for people that might not know him yet, what he went through, briefly what happened, but what he went through, and how life is different now compared to before he had this near-death experience. So, yeah, Don.
Well, first of all, I think, like say, I don't see how anybody could go through an experience like that and not have it change them in some way, because it's such a totally different perspective on life and who you are. You might even say where you've come from, whatever. It After spending all the years that I did teaching meditation, self-healing, some of the psychic arts, all that sort of thing, it just gave me a different look at the whole thing. And I don't know how else to describe that. It's like you go along through life and then something happens, and all of a sudden you look around you and you're seeing everything in a different way. You're seeing life in a different way. For me, it was, I'd walk outside and I'd see the trees in a different way. And so how useful is that, or what can you do with that? And for me, when I came back in, we've talked about this before, I believe, it was, I was aware that I had a choice about whether or not to come back. And saying, okay, I'm going to go back because I'm not finished yet. And I didn't know at the time what that meant. It was just simply, I had the sense that I wasn't finished with what I set out to do in this lifetime. And I sort of set a condition on it. And it was like, I'm not going to go back into my body without taking the memory and the energy of what I was experiencing in that place, if you will. And I wasn't going to go back into the body without bringing that back with me. So the usefulness for that with me is that when I feel myself getting all caught up in everyday life kinds of things, if I just take a minute and retune, remind myself, be back in that space, then the perspective just totally changes about whatever I'm caught up in, whatever I might be trying to heal on a body level, whether that be physical or psychological or whatever. But it's like what I found is with the energy that was in that place, it just made everything really simple. And so, I don't know. Does that answer that question at all?
I think so. Yes, yeah. It starts to get me thinking about stuff too. And so, really simple. Is there a short phrase that would say, and because that describes a simple? I know when Richard Bartlett talks about matrix energetics, and when he first had it just given to him as a gift, from spirit or whatever, and he all of a sudden could start shifting people could start healing from being around him. And my experience with matrix and energetics is similar in that being in the space of it which you guys are in right now, people can have changes simply from that. And there was a guy that kept trying to learn matrix energetics, and it took him 3 years, and he wasn't getting it, not even a little. And Richard Bartlett kept trying to tell him it's so simple, and he couldn't get it. And then in one instant, it's quite amazing in his book, Matrix Energetics, he got it, but it wasn't because he figured it out. It just all of a sudden he had it. And so one of the things that I found useful is that being in the space of it, like right now, you're in it, you might notice whatever you notice and see what how to access whatever this is. But I want to check in with Don, like, it's simple. So if it's simple, can you tell us how to access it? Or is there words to access it? Or is it just you sit in it for a while and then you got it? Or how do you get it?
Well, it's sort of like if you've been to San Francisco, you know what San Francisco is like. And so you can revisit that in your mind anytime that you choose.
Okay.
You remember it. And this is similar in that it's not a thinking about it. It's a memory of what that experience was. And this is, what I used to say to people all the time in classes when they'd start asking a lot of questions, and they get all tangled up in their questions, I'd say something very gentle and lovingly. I'd say, shut up, and just turn inward. And it's like, and they knew exactly what I was talking about over the years. And it's like getting out of that thinking. It's a state of being. If you're in a different vibrational level, it's a state of being. And when we try to figure that out, our figuring process is real limited. I mean, the capabilities, the story you were telling about matrix energetics with the guy, and it's like as long as we're trying, and I underline about 3 times trying to figure it out, we're keeping ourselves from having the experience of it. And it is so simple, and that was so highlighted in that near-death experience, was like the elegance of the simplicity, and also seeing from there how capable we all are on all these levels. Nobody's doing anything that somebody else can't do. We all have access to these incredible abilities to heal ourselves, to assist other people in their healing process, or whatever. And to me, that's all just starting to come online. The pioneering work that he did with matrix energetics when he was accessed that gift. My way of seeing that at this point is anybody could have accessed that. For whatever reason, he allowed himself to access it. It's like it's floating around. I think back of the Wright brothers and their first flight. Well, they weren't the only ones that were tuned into that. There are other people that were getting ready to start experimenting with flying, other places in the world. It's like it was time for that space to open up. Mm. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so for whatever reason, they got it and were successful in getting off the ground. And I think of that in relation to all of these different healing modalities that are out there. And I think it's important for us to get to a place to where we start seeing those things from a different sort of mindset. It's taking it outside of, oh, this is special, or this is a thing, or blah, 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 blah. No, this is something that we all innately know how to do. It's just that we've been so programmed, shall we say, or our society is set in such a way that the intellectual part of us takes precedence over everything else. And one of the things that gets highlighted for me with this process is we tend to think in terms of, if I understand it, then I can experience it. And I look at that as being the flip reverse of reality. It's like we have an experience, then eventually perhaps we'll be able to understand it. But I need to let myself go beyond my present level of understanding in order to experience something that's like a different dimension.
I love it. That sounds great. So we're all wizards. So let's let's if we were to experience something now that might be whatever that is, what might we experience? Okay, so okay. So can you or do you float in and out of that experience now that you're back, or are you always in that experience, or what is it like for you related to that experience, whatever that is?
It seems at this point, and this was 5 years ago, this happened. And in the interim time, when I first came back for the next, quite a long time, actually, measured in months or years, actually, it felt like I was there and here. It's like they were both operating simultaneously, and we tend to want to separate everything out. And it's like, no, these are the same. And as I've gone along since then, put my attention on it, I can touch it and I can be with it. Sometimes if I get all caught up, and that's my choice of places to be operating from, because for one thing, I giggle a lot. He
does giggle a lot.
Yeah, there's an amusement around how seriously we take ourselves and everything else. And yeah, there's stuff that's going on in the world that we probably are going to be concerned about. But I don't know how to describe that. It's letting myself be in both places at once. Even if my body's going through something, like all of a sudden it's very concerned about something, it's being able to touch both places at once and let my body be concerned, but not have that detract from the other experience that I'm having of life. And none of us are perfect with any of this, I don't think. I've never met anybody who it is. It's like you get buttons pushed, whatever, and it's a place from which you can sort of deactivate those buttons because you're operating on a higher level. There's parallels with this with quantum physics as an example. It's like realizing that there's impacts on an energetic level that things that can happen there that impact the physical reality, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And so you're in a space where you can be in both both spaces, one where you're feeling the physical stuff and having buttons pushed, and one where you're in this other space of knowing what it was like being in that near-death experience. But basically you have the how did you say it? It was real simple and it was an experience.
Yeah.
And you could be in that experience whenever you want to, and you float a little bit between those two, it sounds like, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a certain, to me, the word that comes up, there's an elegance
Elegance, yeah.
to the simplicity.
And so it's simple and it's elegant. Is it for someone? Is it easy for you to be in that space or whatever you want to call that?
It depends on the circumstances sometimes, like talked about getting buttons pushed, whatever.
Yeah.
But also just energetically, if I'm around people that are more open to this brighter, shall we say, level of energy, if I'm around a bunch of people that are just in the dumps,
Just not feeling good.
just not feeling good, and they hate life or whatever, and they want to do battle every inch of the way. It's like when I'm surrounded by people like that, it's more difficult for me to really be with that vibration. We do have an impact on each other. And what this really goes back to is energy real or not? I mean, the healing work that you're doing is, what do they call it? Energy, matrix energetics. It's energy. And we haven't learned how to figure that out yet. And so we need to trust that we know what we're doing on some level or another. And so anyway, getting back to the question, if I'm around a bunch of people that are vibrating at a very low level, it's more difficult for me to access the vibration that I'm
Interesting,
wanting
even
to.
for you, having been there in an absolute experience of it.
Yeah, it's and
Okay.
if people aren't interested.
It's kind of like the Peter Pan thing. Like if they don't believe, they're not going to fly, and it's not as much fun for Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. They might go find other people that want to go fly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and so is there a component of that to enter the kingdom of heaven you must be as a child, or like the Peter Pan like doesn't want to grow up and so he can fly and transcend all these things around healing and death and all that kind of stuff? Is there what's the relationship between whatever that experience is that's simple and elegant and being as a child?
Well, to me, it takes me right back to my childhood, because, and I think we've talked about this a little, I would have experiences as a child. And I remember specifically sometimes when I was 4 or 5 years old in there. And then I talked to my parents about it, or whoever was around, and they'd say, "Oh, nice imagination, kid. You really make up neat things." And it's like there was no belief on that level at all. And so as I developed, as I grew up, then I just started shutting all that off. Subconsciously, we take in the message that it's unreal. And so that becomes our belief system. And to start to unwind some of that can be a challenge. And again, it's the energetics. What's the energy that I was raised in? And it was one of disbelief. And that starts pointing as to what I refer to as how malleable we are as human beings. And so we go, and then years later, and I had this near-death experience, and then it occurs to me somewhere along the way, it's like, oh my God, I was revisiting where I went every night as a child. And with a child, you've got your children and watch them, and it's all playful, and they're having a good time, and they're exploring, constantly exploring. And somehow that ties in for me. Be as a little child, it's like, can you it gets back to what I was talking about earlier: experience first, understanding later.
So play and explore,
yeah,
and don't worry about trying to figure it out as you try to figure it out, but play and explore. Those are the big ones. Play and explore as a child.
And amusement.
And amusement.
How much fun are they having?
So play, explore, and have fun. Okay, so if you were to, with all the people that are watching now and that might be watching later, if you were to say, okay, if you want to play in this world from that place where you have this knowingness because you have an experience of what's really going on here, play, explore, find amusement and stuff. Maybe not think so much, I don't know, but what would you say is like, are there like, okay, like if somebody were to come to you and say, okay, how do I do that? What, without knowing like their business stuff or their relationship stuff or their health stuff, but it's like they want to access that whatever you've got, and then have something that's useful where when they go back and look at the physical world, something really cool has come through and they're doing things the way they want. Like, you know, if you had the life you wanted and had it just the way you want it, what would it look like? What would you be doing? And what would be the best part of that life? How might they use, how might we use that, whatever you're talking about accessing, can you use that to manifest stuff as you play and explore? And like, if you, like you know, a lot of people have concerns around health or money, and if they didn't have those, they would have a lot more attention units, a lot more bandwidth to play, explore, do stuff. But if they're thinking about, God, I just don't have enough to make my mortgage or to pay my rent, or I've got this really bad chronic illness or condition, their attention units are on that. So, you know, it's like, can you talk about like, okay, you've got these things you want to manifest and you've got lots of attention on it. And then you're telling us to play, explore, experience, be amused. How does that all tie together to shift stuff that's, you know, that people want to change, you know, for real good reasons, like money, health, stuff like that?
Yeah. You're opening Pandora's box. Good.
Okay,
you
excellent.
Realize.
Great. This is awesome. I'm ready. I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah.
Or experience it.
There's so many different avenues that you can take here, but again, it's
shortest, fastest, easiest.
When it gets down to what can somebody do to let themselves go into a different place, you know, with the work that you're doing, people who are out there, like people who are listening to the talks that you give, and then receiving the healing that you're giving, whether they know it or not, on some level, what they're doing, you're setting an energy, you're setting a particular vibration, and they're tending to match that. And you know, and I can't think of, not match you, but to match the vibration that you're sitting in. And that's, they just went to a magic place. Something can happen there that they didn't expect to happen. Well, by going to that vibration, they just stepped out of their box. Yeah. You know, they stepped into a bigger space. And so if somebody wants to retune to that, it's remembering what it was like to listen to Ralph when he was doing his healing work. You know,
you felt it once, you can go back and feel it again.
Exactly. And it gets back to that thing of experience first. Let yourself experience it. And we've got the box built around us, our reality that we call it, that for whatever reason seems to be pretty limited to what we can understand. And this is that thing when they're listening to you and then watching you work, it's like they're going somewhere that they can't maybe fully understand. They can't track it on an intellectual level, but they're allowing themselves to step into, I think of it that, just stepping into another vibration. What we find as we go along is that we can get much more adept at just changing our vibration.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So it's that. Okay. So for the next few moments, you're already there. I mean, that's how you live. Can you let's just take for a moment. And Don has that experience. He's been there. He lives there. He knows it. And I'm going to go ahead and do whatever that version is of my. I'm going to let go right now and step into it. I'll do it this way. If there was an experience that would be useful for you right now, what might that be? So for the next few moments, let's just check in. Notice what you notice. So what you might want to notice what you notice. Notice anything that might be different. And of course, let's check in and see what's different in the physical world after this Facebook Live and YouTube event. Okay, so let's see. So if I'm hearing, here's how I'm hearing some of this. Let me know if I'm on track or anything you want to shift about this. It sounds like there's going to be physical things that you can do. Like if you're growing a business, you got to get the right things to get the tech stuff going, the websites or the marketing or whatever you're doing. The actual work, whether it's healing work or some other kind of work that you're doing. And there's meetings to go to and stuff to do. Like I would think you're not going to do it by sitting on the couch, although I guess you could, and not getting up. But while you're doing that, being amused, playing, actually exploring and having that mindset, and that's your experience that you're playing, exploring, you're amused at how it's all showing up. Is that how you can bridge the gap between, if there is a gap, make it so that you play in this energetic world, this experience that you're talking about, and have really cool things in your existence where money's not the issue and you can get on with really playing in other ways that you want to play, or using that, or you don't have the health concerns and you can do what you want to do. So what I'm understanding is, okay, do what you do to get well or to get rich or to bring your work to the world or to do stuff in the physical world, but do it in a way where you're playing, you're amused, you're exploring, it's fun. You're as a kid being surprised, that kind of thing. Am I getting that right, or is there anything else to that?
To me, yeah, and it has to do with again, what's the box that we're dwelling within? And for at least the way I was raised, the only way you get money is you work really hard, and it's kind of a drag, probably. It's like, wait a minute.
That's the belief system.
Yeah, it's the belief system. And a lot of this can be on a very subconscious level, and not even in my thoughts, oh, I don't believe that. And yet when you start delving in deeper, you uncover some of this stuff. And can I just sort of have some amusement that I actually bought that? I remember in my growing up years, as an example, it seemed like I couldn't do anything right. And did we talk about this last time?
I don't know. I don't remember. It doesn't ring a bell.
Wrong way, Don?
Oh, just barely. Yeah, I remember that word.
Yeah. And it was like finally at some point realizing that I had that on such a deep level. And it was my experience with my father. I couldn't, And he was only trying to get me to do things better, that's all. But it's like what it came across to me as is that there's no matter what you do, you're going to do it wrong. And so eventually got to a place to where I'd get up in the morning and look at myself in the mirror and just repeat over and over, wrong way, Don.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And I'd sit there until I could giggle.
Oh.
Okay. Until I quit taking it so seriously. And we take our boxes
That's
so
cool.
seriously, and then we wonder why we can't step out of it. You know,
Oh, you kept looking at it over and over and over and over again until it just like cracked you up.
yeah, and you know, there's some people out there that would be in very much in disagreement with going about it that way, but that's the way I went about it, and it worked for me. And everybody needs to find their own space with that, so to speak. It's like what works for you to quit taking things so seriously, so that you can start to introduce a level of playfulness and a level of enjoyment. It's like, what do you really enjoy doing? Well, in my upbringing, you probably weren't going to enjoy work. It was something you had to do, particularly at that time as a male. And because it was a male's, you know, duty to provide for everybody in the family and all the stuff that we get inundated with. And so again, getting back to the child, looking at the child learning, and it's like they're just absorbing, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and this worked, that didn't, and so they get refined as they go along. How much permission is there for any of us to do something and have it not work? You know, the first thing most people do is to start trashing themselves. It gets back to oh, I did it wrong again. And it's like, wait a minute, you just made a discovery. And can you give yourself permission to discover? Because we think we know how things work. And what seems to be getting highlighted right now through science and everything else is we really don't know how things work. As a matter of fact, the beliefs that we were raised with just got shattered. I mean, they, you know, with new discoveries. And even the laws of physics, they're starting to recognize that some of the stuff that we've believed forever it's
just not true.
No, it's not true. It's a very small picture of what the universe is all about, what we're all about, how things work. And so when you start delving into things like
I like that. I like that part. Take off the how and things work. That's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
Let's do that one. Let's put that one into the field here. Yeah, things work. Okay, thanks, Don.
Yeah. And it's just that simple process of discovery. I mean, you know, you look at some of the explorers, you know, that wandered around the world and exploring different places. Well, if they left, you know, Europe and came to North America, those the first ones, well, things weren't here the way they were there. And, you know, they were dealing with perhaps different animals, different wildlife, different and, you know, ecological systems, whatever. And so it's that discovery. And what we've tended to do is then try to impose, let's put it that way, try to impose our previous experiences on what's happening right now. And so in that case, I'd bring from Europe all of my experiences there and try to, you know, impose those beliefs on the people that I might meet here, but they were coming from a very different place. They had been formed into belief systems that were different than the ones we were formed in that scenario. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's like basically letting go of some of the belief systems that we've taken as true, and going to this place where these beliefs that experience is more valuable, and play is more valuable, and exploring is more valuable. Okay.
And we both had a substantial amount of experience with, let's say, the beliefs that we've been raised with is somebody's got this illness, there's no cure for it. And then operating outside of that belief system, all of a sudden they get better.
Yep.
They have maybe a spontaneous, remission or something. And it's like, oh, can I continue to explore that? Or is this, if I don't believe that can happen, it's not going to happen.
I like that. I continue to explore this. Okay, cool.
Which is basically, can I keep expanding the box that I'm existing within?
Oh, I like it.
How far out can I push the edges of that box? And we all have our different comfort levels with that. And so exploring that, to me, it's just all about exploration.
It's all about exploration. Okay, that's cool. So let's see. So if you're watching live, you can leave a comment, a question for Don if you want, anything specific, or leave a comment in the YouTube box, and we'll look through those and answer those too. Let's see. So it reminds me of, we just had the Super Bowl, best Super Bowl game ever. I don't know, did you watch that?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God, it was the best Super Bowl game ever. And there was a thing on the CBC Canadian Broadcasting a while back. I was driving around, and a reporter had been interviewing different people, and she was interviewing like Olympic athletes. I think they were Olympic athletes, really high level Olympic athletes. And she thought she was going to talk to people that were boring and one dimensional, and just like, all they did was sleep, eat, and do their sport. And what she found was that they were the most interesting, happy, joyful people. And when I was, when I was a little kid, I just knew I was going to be 180 pounds, 6 foot tall, and play wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. I just knew it. And kind of went another route. Running was my sport, but long distance running. But what I know is, like, for me to run and train, and my whole life since I was a little kid, running competitively and training, I loved the training. I loved every bit of the training. I loved everything about it. And I loved competing, and I loved all that. And these football players get to do the sport they love, and they get to train really hard. And yeah, there's hard parts, but like one of the runners that won the Olympic gold medal for the 1500 meters for the US, Matt Centrowitz, he said, even before he won it, he says, "Don't pinch me, because I'm living the dream." And and he meant the whole thing, the whole lifestyle, like resting, training, hanging out with those guys. And when this reporter interviewed a bunch of Olympic athletes, she found they were so interested in life. They were so happy. They worked really, really hard, and they did what they absolutely love to do. Is that kind of how we should be doing our work? Is that am I touching it all? Like how to bridge the gap, or bridge the thing between gap, but connect up the physical manifest stuff in this world and the experience that you were in with near death? Like, is that touching it?
Yeah, to me it is. Sort of, we're pointing at the same thing.
Like you and me when we talk about this? Okay.
Yeah. And again, that's going to be unique to each individual.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and it was a question that came up for me this morning as I was sitting sort of contemplating um, some things. Um, it's when I was teaching classes, what I became aware of is I taught in 2 hour, well, an hour segment, then we take a break and then come back for another hour. And so often it took almost all of the first hour, or a good portion of it, just to get people there to where they were experiencing what I was trying to lead them through, and letting go of the day, letting go of whatever they were concerned about, just getting them quieted down so they could just be there and have that experience. And then once we'd start getting into it, then it's like they were going somewhere, experiencing something, and then and it would be magic. And then we'd take a break, and they'd all go out and they'd have coffee and or tea or something, and they'd be chattering to each other. And essentially what I tuned in is they were explaining to each other what they were experiencing. There's and then they'd come back in for the second hour, and it would take getting them back again, because they'd go off either into somebody else's belief system, somebody else was hearing what they were saying they were experiencing, but they were hearing it from wherever they were coming from. And it's real easy. It's like me.
They quit experiencing it without, they started trying to intellectualize it.
Yeah. Yeah. And as soon as they got into that place, it was back to my childhood. I'd have these wonderful experiences, and then I'd try to talk to somebody about it, and all of a sudden it would just start to fade out and disappear because it wasn't real.
It's like the Peter Pan thing.
Yeah, exactly. Right into that again. And so, what was your question?
No, I think, yeah. Like how to bridge those two places. I wonder, so yeah, so you that was great. Yeah, so you want to make sure you don't, or you want to check in and notice when you're starting to intellectualize something and trying to fit it into your current paradigm of thinking of what this is, and notice that, and then also notice when you're totally experiencing it. So what I want to do is have check in with people and have, if you want to, what you can do right now is notice how you're different, notice what's different, notice how the day goes, notice how life goes until you see us next time. Leave some comments of what you're experiencing, what's different for you. If you put something into the field, an intention to help somebody heal or to help yourself heal, or to manifest something in business or money or your life, or whatever would be the thing that, if done with you, if you could do it, would really make a big difference. That what would be the thing, what would be the best part of getting what you want? You can notice if there's what's different in that world. And then let me know on the comments, let us know what would be useful for you. Like if you were to sit down and ask Don, hang out with me, experience this, this work, this stuff, whatever this is, and then have it show up in a way that would be useful for you, what would you want, or what would be useful for you, or what questions might you ask, or what would be useful for you? So let us know, and that'll be awesome. And I'll leave our contact information in the comment section too, so you can also email us. Yeah, and every Thursday I do a free distance healing session. It's a matrix energetics session. It's everything I've got. And basically, if you're on my email list, you're part of it. And you're welcome to send me an email and say, hey, I've got this going on. Can you help with this? And every Thursday morning for the last 7 years, I've been waking up about 6 or 7, sometimes a little earlier, on Thursday mornings, Pacific time, US, Canada, and doing a session. There's nothing else you have to do. Just let me know that you want in on it, and I can put you on it. And so I'll leave you the contact info for that. You can just enter your email, and then you can email about the session. There's nothing you have to log on to for that, but you'll get an email in your inbox that says, hey, you had your session. And so you're welcome to do that. And then Don's got his email. Tell us your email again if you want. Any contact info that you want to give?
Well, I'm in process of creating a website, and it will be on there, but it's not yet. And it's just called donleytoday.com.
And so the email address? Or do you want, or you can also email me, and I'll make sure Don gets your questions too. So
yeah, that would probably be best at this point.
Okay, so yeah, ralphhavens.com, and there should be a pop-up that shows up to enter your email and then be on the Thursday list. And there's a contact page from there, or you can leave comments on the Facebook or the YouTube video, and let us know what you need. If there was something that you would want to ask Don, ask me, have something that would shift for you in the physical world, business or health or relationships, or just let us know what you got going on, and what you would like. And I think that's pretty good for today. I seem to have these things set so that I see my battery coming down. It says low battery. So and of course we could plug it in, but this is good. So email us, message us, put messages below, click like, share, and let us know what you need. Any parting words, Don?
Have fun.
Have fun. Have fun. That's it. That's what my little boy says. That's
giggle.
What Ben says.
Giggle. Yeah.
Have fun and giggle. Okay, everybody. Bye for now.